Hi, my name is Trainmaster04, and in this video I'll be reviewing possibly the most beautiful steam locomotive in the world, Southern Pacific 4449, otherwise known as the Daylight. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Union Pacific 4014, do you read me? Over. Roger that. Union Pacific 4014, I read you. Over. Start up and stand by. Over. Yes, sir. Start up and stand by.
To start off this video, let's dive into the history of 4449 to get a better understanding of the model right in front of you. Southern Pacific 4449 is considered a 484 Northern type steam locomotive and was originally built by the Lionel Locomotive Works in May of 1941 and was given the designation of GS-4. GS standing for Golden State and the number 4 designating it being the 4th series locomotive in the famous GS series. And in this case, the GS series starting with the GS-1 number 4400 in 1930 and ending with GS-6 number 4469 in 1943. Southern Pacific 4449 was different in the sense compared to a GS-3 in that she was the first locomotive to be given a Mars light, hence why you see two headlights up front and also an all-weathered cab to protect crews in the snowy mountain ranges on the Southern Pacific and any kind of other cold or hot weather climates. 4449 had a fruitful career on the Southern Pacific. For instance, she was painted in the beautiful orange, red, and black paint scheme for the Daylight Limited and pulled said service on the Southern Pacific lines for most of her career. It wasn't until 1956 when she was officially retired from the SP roster and was put into storage. It wasn't until 1958 when the Southern Pacific decided to donate the locomotive to the city of Portland in Oregon. The city decided to put the locomotive on display in the Oaks Amusement Park, where it remained until 1974. It remained there till 74 for most of her time, collecting dust, rust, and ruining her beautiful orange, red, and black paint, but it wasn't until then when somebody by the name of Doyle McCormick came and rescued the locomotive. In 1974, Doyle McCormick and his team pulled out the aging locomotive out of the amusement park, restored her, and gave her a patriotic red, white, and blue paint scheme and was used on the American Freedom Train. The Freedom Train for her leg of the trip ran between August of 75 through December of 1976 and became one of the most popular locomotives used on the train over its full career. The locomotive did not end there and continued to run and be shown on the silver screen, such as in the 1986 Tough Guys and also in the 1990 drama Come See the Paradise. Her fame soon shot up even more and it still can be seen today, running on the Oregon Rail Heritage Center in Portland, Oregon, where she pulls excursion trains up and down the western coast, shining her beautiful orange, red, and black paint scheme and still being dubbed the most beautiful train in the world. Now that you have a better understanding on the history behind the real 4449, let's go over some of the features that this model has to offer. This model was recently released in Lionel's 2016 Volume 1 catalog and soon started showing up in hobby shops and also private owners around late 2016. Yes, unfortunately, this model is not the 2020 Legacy or Vision Line version of the GS-4, but is still a true model. For the dimensions, the locomotive and tender have a combined length of 28 inches long, and because of that, this model is rated to have a minimum curve radius of 0.54. So neither a small engine, but neither a big one like a big boy. Under the hood, this model is powered by one large flywheeled motor and is also equipped with two fan-driven smoke units, both of which are located up here in the smoke box. The first one being used for the main smokestack and the second one being used for the smoking whistle. Now, in order to fill both smoke units with smoke fluid, you simply take your smoke fluid and pour it directly down the main stack. Not the whistle and the main stack, just only the main stack, as both are fed via one. For other electronics, this model is equipped with Lionel's Legacy rail sounds and also Legacy command control, which means you can operate this locomotive via 3 different methods. The first being is using Lionel's Legacy Cab 2 command system, which would allow you to access all of the Legacy features that this model has to offer. The second method is using Lionel's TMCC or Cab 1 command system, which would allow you to access all of the basic features, but not as much as Legacy. And finally, you can simply use the third method, which is conventional mode, by simply putting your locomotive on an oval of track, turning on your power supply, and letting it run around your loop of track and just having fun. Now that we've gone over all of the features, let's take a closer look at the model and see all of the wonderful details it has to show. Starting with the pilot on the locomotive, here you can see we have two separately applied steps leading up to the upper part of the pilot itself, two separately applied brake hoses with silver tips, separately applied stainless steel striping against a beautiful daylight orange paint scheme, a separately applied coupler cup bar with real chain coming off of it and going into a scale dummy coupler right here in the middle. Moving up, you can see we have two separately applied flagpole stanchions, separately applied air compressor shield, a small brass bell hidden underneath the locomotive, a separately applied number board with 4449 scripted on front, and also finally a smokebox door front deck plate to reach the front of it. Moving on up, here you can see we have the iconic smokebox front on the 4449 with the cone-shaped smokebox door with two separately applied and backlit number boards and the iconic dual headlights. The bottom being the main headlight and the upper one being the Mars light. Both headlights do come on when the locomotive is in operation, and the Mars light in specific can be turned on or off if you don't like it or do like it via the Legacy command control system. Underneath it, here you can see we have a separately applied grab iron, two grab irons on the side of the smoke box itself, two separately applied marker lights which do come on when the locomotive is in operation, and finally a small Typhoon air horn which is used and can be operated by pressing the aux1 button or on the Legacy or TMCC remotes to activate it, and it was used to go and be a temporary fix for when dense fog comes on the rail line in the West Coast. And finally, like usual Legacy engines, the smokebox door does open. Simply put it, like so. Moving over to the engineer side of the locomotive, starting up top, here you can see we have a molded in number board, which does come on when the locomotive is in operation. Underneath that, here you can see the beginning of the handrail that runs along the length of the boiler. Two builder's plates, the upper one being for the Lima Locomotive Works, and it does have legible print on both of them. Other details involved such as these molded in steps, separately applied pipework and other various injector components, and also the separately applied throttle linkage, which in this case is the end leading into the superheater unit inside the smoke box. Coming on down here, you can see we also have the beginning of the running board, which does have safety tread on top, and also the beginning of the iconic streamlined skirting with the orange paint scheme, two molded in doors, molded in rivet detailings, and the iconic daylight herald. And then finally at the bottom here you can see we have the cylinders with rivet detailing, valve gear which does look good when the locomotive is in operation, and also the beginning of the enormous drivers on this model. Continuing down the boiler, again you can see the throttle linkage and handrails continuing, as well as a number board patch which sometimes these locomotives would change the position of their number boards, and in one instance they would typically be in the middle, reminiscent to the GS-2 days as seen in a video that I'll leave a link to down below. As well as other similar details, you can see the continuation of the streamlined skirting as well as the upper running board along the length of the boiler. Now, one interesting detail that Lionel added to this locomotive, but unfortunately you cannot see, is there are actual details behind the skirting. Similar to the original GS-4s, one problem that crews had with these locomotives was maintaining all of the equipment underneath these skirtings, hence why there are these two hatches, probably to access some air compressor pumps or other various equipment. Underneath you can see the beginning of the side rods, which are chemically darkened to make it give a different appearance, and also the 8 humongous driving wheels. Now if you notice at the center of the drivers you'll see this little star. Some people think it is decoration for the 4449 and other GS locomotives that had these on them, but in reality it was a Southern Pacific designation stating that these locomotives, whoever had the stars, had roller bearings on the driver axles. Coming to the end of the locomotive and looking at the cab and firebox area, Down below here you can see we have the power booster truck, which has some molded in detail, such as the two-pistoned power booster in the back and also some brake hose detailing around on the side. Moving on up, you can see there are various separately applied pipework around the firebox itself, molded in rivet detailing on the side of the firebox, and also a separately applied water injector underneath the cab. Moving on up, here you can see on the cab area itself there is various different parts of detail, such as a unique curved step ladder going up to the door with two separately applied grab irons on either side of the said door, the end of the skirting and also running board up against the cab, the number 4449 underneath the cab windows, a door with a clear plastic insert window which does open and close like so, a cab window for the engineer and one for the fireman on the opposite side, and also the end of both the main handrail and also a separate grab iron above the windows themselves. Looking at the back of the locomotive, and as you can see, there is something a little different, and that is there is not a doorway or an archway right at the back to see inside the cab. Instead, there is this blank wall and a little door up top. And this is because the real 4449 and other GS locomotives of this type were given an all-weather cab, meaning the locomotive crew were protected from any form of elements by a completely enclosed cab. And this was achieved because most Southern Pacific locomotives were oil burners and firemen did not have to constantly hand shovel coal or maintain the coal pile level inside the tender via access behind the cab. So in this case, it's just a blank wall, but there are a few little details, such as these two windows with clear plastic inserts and this platform with a door in front. This little door allows crew to climb out of the cab and get access to on top of the tender. And Lionel was able to make this a functional item by moving a hatch on top of the roof, which I'll show you later on, and simply opening the doors like that. As you can see, there's a little metal latch and magnet holding it in place. Other details entail is the continuation of the red, orange, and black striping along the back, which does give it a nice touch, and at the very bottom, the locomotive end drawbar with the infrared sensor on top. On top of the boiler, since this locomotive is a partially streamlined locomotive, there is really not much details to be shown in both molded and separately applied, but there are a few. Starting at the right, here you can see we have the molded smokestack, which does have a smoke unit inside of it, and also adjacent to it, the separately applied whistle. As stated earlier, this locomotive is equipped with two fan-driven smoke units, one for the main smokestack and one for the smoking whistle. Moving on down, you can see the skyline casing continues along top and does have a few molded in details, such as boiler bands, rivets, a sand dome hatch, steam dome, and also a little indentation where inside it encases three hand-painted and separately applied poppet valves. Continuing on down, here you can see we have yet a few more details, such as molded in rivets, three separately applied dynamos, which was prototypical to the real 4449, a rivetless, smooth cab roof with two hatches. The forward one being an air vent, which does open towards the front and close like so, and then the second one being that hatch roof, as shown earlier, for the two doors to get access to the top of the tender. Finally, taking a quick look at the fireman's side of the locomotive, and as a result, you can really see there is not a lot of new details to be shown on this side as compared to the engineer. Instead, there are a few little bits of details that are different, such as in addition to a few more molded in access hatches, two visible air compressor pumps underneath the running board, various pipework along the smoke box and underneath the cab, and also a better look of a side view of the three dynamo generators on top of the boiler. Now let's move over and take a look at the tender. Starting up front, up top here you can see we have the upper edge of the oil bunker, a separately applied step that is accessible through the cab, various molded in pipework for the oil tank, molded in rivet detailing, and finally at the bottom, the tender end of the infrared drawbar. Moving over to the engineer's side of the tender, and as you can see, the beautiful daylight striping continues on the side of the tender and really does make it pop with all the details, such as the Southern Pacific script up top, the beveled water tank, the various molded-in rivet detailing, the separately applied ladder, separately applied number board, molded-in toolbox, capacity load figures, and also the 2 6-wheel trucks underneath the tender. Looking at the back of the tender, starting at the bottom, here you can see we have the locomotive's electrocoupler, which can be thrown by using Lionel's Legacy or Team CC command control system. Moving up, on the back of the tender you can see the stripe work does come to an end, but also reveals a few more details, such as a molded-in rivet detailing, a molded-in headlight, which does come on when the locomotive is put into reverse, molded-in conduits, 2 separately applied marker lights, which do come on when the locomotive is in operation, separately applied grab iron, and also 2 separately applied handrails up top. Finally, taking a quick look on top of the tender, starting at the right hand side, here you can see we have 2 separately applied grab irons, molded-in rivet detailing, 2 separately applied crane hooks, a molded-in oil hatch and dipstick, 2 separately applied grab irons along the water tank on either side of the tender, a toolbox, and 4 water hatches, most of which contain nothing, but one contains the master volume switch inside the tender. Now that I've covered both the locomotive and tender, let's fire up this beauty and hear a sampling of some of the sound features that this model has to offer.
This is the dispatcher. Do you copy? I read you. Over. Very good. Start up and hold. Yes, sir. Start up and stand by. Out.
With the locomotive fired up, let's now get a sample of the sound features. First up, here's the quillable whistle. And also, since this locomotive is equipped with a Typhoon air horn as a detail feature, Lionel also included an aux feature so that you can get that said Typhoon air horn. So simply pressing the aux 1 button switches it to the air horn. And to switch it back to the whistle, again you press the aux 1 button and you get the whistle. Next, here is the bell. Here is the steam blowdown sound. The water and oil fill-up sound.
My water's full. Over. Roger that. Out. Fill her up! My well's full. Over. Roger that. Out.
And finally, here is a sample of both the tower and crew talk chatter. Some people like it, some people don't. I tend to be in the middle, so here's a sample of it.
Dispatch here. Take the green. Over. Thank you much. Cleared outbound. Out. Dispatcher, am I cleared to the outbound? Over. Negative. Please stand by. Over. Copy that. Standing by. Out. Tower, looking for a clear. Can we move yet? Over. Negative. Hold your position. Over. Okay. Standing by. Out. This is the dispatcher. Hold your position. Over. Roger. Waiting for your signal. Out.
Alrighty, I got some freight cars hooked up behind the tender. We've been given the green signal, so let's move on out.
Tower, train is outbound. Over. Roger that. Have a good run. Out. We're clear all the way. Over. Roger that. Green light. Out. Dispatcher, how's the track look? Am I clear? Over. Yeah, you out the track. Over. Yeah, thanks, dispatcher. All clear ahead. Out. Tower, we're at a full stop. I'll let you know when I'm rolling. Out. See you next trip, dispatcher. Out.
That about wraps up this product review, but before I go, let me go ahead and answer the two questions that I normally ask around this time of the video, and they are, what is the original MSRP price for one of these models, and also what is my personal opinion on it? Well, to start off, the original MSRP price from 2016 is right at $1,700. Now that price value, since it has been 6 years ago, has gone up and down based on the market. And these models have become quite a scarcity to find on the secondhand market and also brand new. My suggestion if you want to get one of these models is either find one of the Vision Line models that Lionel came out with 2 years ago, or if you cannot afford one, go around calling local hobby shops or somewhere around the country and even scour through the secondhand market, and maybe you'll get lucky and find one available for the right price. Now let's move on to the second question, which is, what is my personal opinion about this model? Overall, I can see why Lionel kept this tooling and then later on upgraded it with the Vision Line reissue in 2020. The locomotive itself holds up to its true standards as a legacy locomotive. It's gorgeous, it runs smooth, and it just is an eye-stunning item for any layout. If you're wanting to reproduce, the famous daylight locomotive or daylight passenger train, this model would do justice. However, my only complaint is the whistle steam. Since the whistle steam is connected to the main smokestack, and also since it's so close, the whistle steam really does not come out as strong as it should be, and instead siphons through the stack instead of out of the whistle. As a result, you only get extra stack smoke and not a lot of whistle steam. Overall though, the model is such a great addition to anybody's layout, I would suggest it even over the Vision Line model. But that is my own personal opinion. That wraps up this product review, but before you go, I just want to say thank you very much for watching this video and also watching it to the very end. It takes me a long time to produce high quality videos for you to enjoy, so I really do appreciate all of your support. Now, if you'd like to go the next step further in supporting my channel, please do click on that subscribe button, as that would allow my channel to grow. Right now, we're at 951 subscribers, so only 49 subscribers left to go. So call your friends, neighbors, and family members to come out onto my channel, subscribe, and we'll get this content out to everybody. Also, while you're at it, please also do click on that like button, as that allows me and YouTube know that you actually enjoy this kind of content. But anyway, my name is Trainmaster4, and I'll be seeing you next time.